Hey guys, so today we're doing slip and slide and divide, so I figured I'd show you a little bit from my balcony. See that? That's snow. Alright, let me go back in so I can record. Okay, so today we are doing factoring trinomials using slide and divide method. You learned other methods on the previous days. So far we did the first step, which is take out the GCF, which you'll notice it says that on everything. Take out the GCF first if one exists. We looked at the reverse window pane, and we also looked at, what did we do? Reverse window pane, and sorry, my mind went blank. Oh, the district factoring method, where it was like grouping. And so if you like those, you could use them. If you don't like them, you can use this method. But this method only works, and you notice when we work out the problems, it only works when you have a number in the front, a coefficient. Sorry for the noise in the background. When you have a coefficient and there is no GCF. So you see here we have 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. There's no GCF. So that's as good as we're going to get. A has an actual value. On the ones we've done up until this point, A was always 1. So if you go back and look at your other notes, A was always 1. This is when A isn't 1. So you could use the T-chart where we did A times C, so 2 times 3, and it had to add up to the middle term, or you could use this method. And I'll show you with the T-chart method that you learned in previous days, and then I'll show you after I show you slide and divide. So here step 1 says to slide the A. The A is that number in the front, because remember our equations are an ax squared plus bx plus c method. To the end of the trinomial and multiply it by the c. Got it? So it's just like that T-chart where we did A times C. Then it says factor the basic trinomial. So then you'll have a basic trinomial where A equals 1. Divide both of your factors by the value you slipped over in step 1. And then reduce your fraction. If there's something left over after you reduce your fraction, then you're going to slide that number to the front. So it probably sounds like a lot, but after I work out this problem, you'll get it. Okay, so we have 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. There's no GCF. So I'm going to take this A, this 2, and I'm going to slide it back here. Multiply it by 3. So then we end up with x squared plus 5x, and that 2 times 3 is going to give us 6. Everybody following? So remember yesterday in a T-chart, we have our A, which is just A times C, which is 6. And then we have a middle term of 5x we're trying to equal 2. And so we know the factors 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. Add 1 and 6, we get 7. Add 2 and 3, we get 5. And that's a 7. So that one's the one that equals the middle term. Got it? So that means that our basic trinomial, if we did a different method, would be x squared. We would have x and x. Both of the signs are positive. And then the factors are 2 and 3 that worked in the parentheses. And you could get that by using the district method or by using the reverse window pane. So we just did the slide, factor the basic trinomial, step 2. Step 3, divide both of your factors by the value you slipped over. So we slipped the 2 to the back, right? So we're going to divide 2 divided by 2 and 3 divided by 2, right? Step 4 says reduce the fraction. So we know 2 divided by 2 is going to be x plus 1. 3 divided by 2 does not work. It's just 3 over 2. So we cannot have a fraction inside this binomial. This term. So here it says slide any denominators to the next variable. So this 2 is going to slide up here in front of the x. And so that factor becomes 2x plus 3. Does everybody see what happened? So slipped the 2 back here, became a 6, factored this basic trinomial and got x plus 2, x plus 3. Divided both of them by that original slipped number 2. Divided by 2, divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 reduced to 1, so that one's good. 3 over 2 doesn't divide. That's the simplest form, so we have to take that denominator 2, slip it back in the front, and so that's 2x plus 3. Got it? Now, I'm going to show you the same problem right here on the side using one of the methods we learned yesterday. So yesterday, originally we learned A times C equals B, right? So if you didn't do slip and slide divide, you would take this 2 and A times C is 6. So it's basically the same thing. And then the middle term's 5. So if you notice, they're the same thing. Slip and slide is kind of like using 2 methods in one. You have to do the slip and slide, and you also have to do the district method using the T-chart. Got it? So let me look at the second one. So if we did the slip and slide method, we would take this 5 times 6. That's going to leave us with m squared minus 17m plus 30. We'll do our T-chart off to the side. On our T-chart, we have 30, and the middle term is negative 17. Factors of 30 are 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and I think that's it. 4 doesn't go in there. 5 times 6. If we look, first signs are negative. Negative times a positive negative, so that means all of our terms are going to be negatives. Add those up. Negative 1, negative 30, we get negative 31. Negative 2, negative 15, we get negative 17. Negative 3, negative 10, we get negative 13. Negative 5, negative 6, we get negative 11. Which one is our middle term? This one right here. So we have negative 2 and negative 15x. So that means inside of our trinomial, both of our signs were negative. We had negative 2 and negative 15. First term, m squared, is going to be m and m. Next step is to divide. So we originally slipped a 5, right? So we're dividing by 5, dividing by 5. This 5 can't stay in the denominator, so we slip it back to the front. So we end up with 5m minus 2. And the second one, we end up with m minus 3. Got it? Okay, so I'm going to go back to the other method we learned just in case you don't like that one. So here we have our A times C equals B. 6 times 4 is going to be 24. Middle terms, negative 5y. Got it? First sign's a negative, so that means we're going to keep the sign. Then multiply to get the second one. A negative times a negative is a positive. So that means one of our signs is going to be a negative. One of our signs is going to be a positive. Keep the first. Multiply to get the second. Got that? Factors of 24. 1 times 24. 2 times 12. 3 times 8. 4 times 6. And I think that's it. 5, 6. Yep. Because then it'll come back around. Uh-oh. I didn't know you couldn't see that. There you go. So that was A times C was 24. B's negative 5. Our factors are 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Got it? Remember, one sign's a negative, one's a positive. So look at our middle term. It's a negative. So that means the negative is probably going to go with our high number, and the low number be the positive. Add those together. Negative 24 and 1 is negative 23. Negative 12 and 2 is negative 10. Negative 8 and 3 is negative 5. Negative 6 and 4 is negative 2. Got that? Which one matches the middle term? Yes, you're right. We could have stopped there. So we have 3 and negative 8. Everybody got that? Now, here's the thing. If we use reverse window pane, there was no GCF, so we have our first term, our last term, and so our middle terms we said are now 3y and negative 8y. Everybody got that? So when we factor, this is kind of going to end up being a guess and check kind of thing, because 6y has multiple factors. You could use 3 and 2, or you could use 1 and 6. So if we chose to use 3y and 2y, 3y times 2y is 6y squared, right? Or you could do 6y times 1y. You basically have to figure out which one works. So look, if I did 3y, can negative 8y go into 3y? Nope, so it doesn't work that way. That means I have to scratch that out, and I have to do 2y over here and make this top one 3y. And let's see, how many times can negative 8y go into 2y? It could go negative 4 times. So see, it worked that way. How many times does 3y go into y? 1 time. And if you want to double check, 2y times 3y is 6y squared. 2y times negative 4 is negative 8. 3y times 1 is 1. 3y and 1 times -4 is -4. So that's where you have a guess and check. Because if y'all had used 6y or 1y to get that 6y squared, it wouldn't have worked. You could have flip-flopped the 1 and the 6, still wouldn't have worked. You saw originally they had 3y right here and 2y up here. That didn't work because it couldn't go to -8. So then the only one that worked was 2y on the side, 3y, and then that works for the whole. So then we end up with 3y minus 4 is a factor and 2y plus 1. See, this can kind of get complicated with the guess and check method. So that's why sometimes slide and divide is easier, because it'll give you an accurate answer without you having to do that guess and check method. But if you like this, you can. Slide and divide will be a more accurate way of doing it, because I'll show you with slide and divide for this one. So let's say we chose, okay, I don't want to do window pane, it's confusing, I'm going to do slide and divide. So if we slid this 6 over here to the 4, we got 24, right? Well, we already did a T-chart for that. So our simple, so that would have left us when we slid that over. Okay, so ignore all of that. I'm moving over here to do the work in this little space right here. Okay, so if we slid that over, then that left us with y squared minus 5y. We slid the 6 over here, so it gave us -24, right? So then we still would have first sign negative, negative times negative is a positive. So now when we factor this basic trinomial, we saw our factors with 3 and -8 that worked, right? So that would tell us y plus 3, y minus 8. Then you would do, so we slid it. Now we have to divide. Remember, we originally slid a 6. So that means we would have to come over here and divide by 6. 3 over 6 reduces to what? You should have got 1/2. Everybody got that? So if that left us 1/2, we would end up with y plus 1/2. Got it? 8 over 6 reduces to y minus, both of those are divisible by 2, so that leaves us with 4 over 3, right? We end up with 2 fractions, and remember, we can't have fractions, so remember the last step was to slide the denominator back up to the front, right? So we slide it back up here, and we end up with 2y plus 1. Slide this 3 back up here, and we end up with 3y minus 4. And if you look, that's the same thing we got with window pane, but we didn't have to do a guess and check method. The slide and divide pretty much put it in place for us. Got it? All right. Okay, if you flip it over to the back, so these are just practice if you want to practice those. Trying it, but I mean, you have homework, or you could have paused and tried to do the examples. Let me see. And I think y'all have homework. Yeah, there was a handout that went out with this one. Yeah. We're going to come down to the multiple step ones. So I'm going to do a few of those with you. Because you'll notice with the multi-steps, when we look at it, we have some huge numbers. We have 20, -52, and we also have 54. So, of course, we know there's probably more than likely a huge GCF. 20, the factors of 1 and 20, we know they can't go into those. 2 and 10, we could pull a 2 out of all those, but I'm not sure if that's going to be the greatest common number. 10 doesn't go into those. 3 doesn't go into 20. 4 and 5 goes into. Can 4 go into all of those numbers? Yes, 4 can go into all of those numbers. So 4 will probably be the best number. So if we factor out a GCF of 4, that leaves us with 5n squared minus 52 divided by 4, I think is 13 n. And then 24 divided by 4, we know that is 6. Let me see. Divided by 4 is 5n, divided by 4 is 13, divided by 4, it's going to be -6. Yep. 20, -52, -25. Just double checking. So now we're down here. Now look at this. We still have some large numbers, right? So you could do whichever method you choose. Since we're doing slide and divide, I'm going to stick with that one. And I'll do one with the district method for those of you that like that method better. But for right now, I'm going to just do slide and divide for this one. So I'm going to slide this 5 up to the front. Everybody got that? So that leaves us with, and the 4 stays on the outside because it's a part of the problem. You can't have to put the GCF back in if you were going to go backwards. I messed up. So we're left with n squared minus 13n, and then the 5 came back here, so it became negative 30, right? So then we're going to have to do our t-chart with 30 and negative, I forgot the n right there, negative 13n. The factors, let me see if you can see that. Scoot over a little bit. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10. There's no 4, nothing to do with about 4. So we jump to 5 and 6, and that's as far as we can go. Okay, so first sign's a negative, negative times a negative is a positive, so I mean one of our numbers is going to be negative, one of our numbers is going to be a positive, the middle number's negative, so that means our higher number is going to be negative. That leaves us with negative 29, negative 13, negative 7, and then, I can't read my own handwriting, that's a negative 1. This one's the middle term, 2 and negative 15, right? So then that means our simple factor is going to be n plus 2 and n minus 15, because those are the factors that work. Now remember, we're doing slide and divide method, so be careful not to stop here because we're not done. So we originally slid a 5. You go back to when we pulled the GCF out. So divide each one of those by 5. Then 2 over 5 is already reduced, so this 5 is going to go back up to the front, right? So bring our GCF down to 4, and so we're left with 5n plus 2. This one reduces, n minus 3, because 15 divided by 5 is 3, and there's our final answer. Everybody got it? Now you have to have the original GCF out there, because let's say we multiply these binomials, if you go back and check, then it's not going to get you to the original problem, because you have to then multiply everything by 4. Got it? Okay, we'll look at one last one. Which one do y'all want me to do? I mean, all pretty much on the same plan level field, so I'll do 11. I'm sure y'all probably said a different number. Oh, that one's kind of easy because they're all divisible by 5. Let's do another one. Okay, we'll do one with a positive, one with a negative. We'll do 14. Can you see that? All right. So first step, check for a GCF. We could pull a 2 out of the problem because all 3 terms can go into 2, right? Sorry. So if we pull a 2 out, then we're left with 16x squared minus 8x, and you have to put that 1 right there. Otherwise, your trinomial is not going to be right. So 2 divided by 2 because we know it's 1. Then that's as far as we can go. This greatest common factor because nothing else can go into 1 except itself. So I'm going to stick with slide and divide. We're going to slide the 16 back here. We're left with x squared minus 8x plus 16. Don't forget to bring down your GCF so that you don't forget it at the end. Then we're going to factor this basic trinomial. T-chart, we're trying to see 16, which factors will get us to negative 8x. We have 1 16, 2 times 8, 4 times 4, and that's it, right? 5 doesn't go, 6 doesn't go. That's it. First sign's a negative, so that means one of our signs is going to be a negative. Negative times positive is a negative, so that means all of ours are going to be negative. Negative, 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 negative. Add them all up, we get negative 17, negative 10, and negative 8, of course. Those two work. So we're left with x minus 4 and x minus 4, because both of the negative 4s added up to get us negative. Bring down our 2. Oh, that's kind of an easy one. So now we have to go back and divide them by that original 16, right? So we slid, now we divide by 16, divide by 16. I'm going to bring down my 2. That's going to be x minus, we know both of them do is about 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And they're identical. They actually call a perfect square, which we'll learn about that. And so our final answer, we slide that 4 back into the front. So the final answer is 4x minus 1 and 4x minus 1. Got it? You can write your answer like that, or some of you might take it that extra step and you actually remember if they're identical, that means